بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وعظيمنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبا القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الصادقين. الحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية سيدي ومولاي علي بن أبي طالب. اللهم صل على محمد. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. Amma ba'd, respected scholars, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We continue in our series of discussions looking at the beginning on the characteristics of Luqman and the way these characteristics are portrayed within the Quran and the world of Hadith. And inshallah, from tomorrow we will begin with the dialogue of Luqman and his son, and how this dialogue began and the main areas that were being discussed between the father and the son. But the last of the characteristics which I'd like to examine before going into the rest of the examination is the characteristic which looks at Luqman's age. Although there is no definite figure, the age is clearly, or the lifetime is clearly a long one. For when a hadith go up to the fact that you've served many prophets of God, clearly you have lived a long period. In some cases going up to saying he served 4,000 prophets of God, highlighting the idea, first and foremost, in any discussion on age in the Quran or in the world of hadith, or when you want to prove a concept about age, the first area you have to discuss is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the originator of all laws on the earth. And therefore, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to break a law, He can break it. Or if there are laws which mankind cannot yet fathom, it does not mean there is a problem with the lawgiver or the lawmaker. Rather, it means that our minds are still limited in their ability to comprehend. Sometimes you find that when you discuss law in terms of the universe, or law in terms of Sharia, you find that people will come to you and say, I do not see the wisdom behind this. You not seeing the wisdom behind this does not mean there isn't wisdom behind it. It means that the brain you are using, you are not using the amount that you can. Whereas the Lord who created this law, He is the one who has given one of His names as Al-Hakim, which means the wise. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I am Hakim, it means that when you see one of my laws, be it a law of Sharia, or be it one of the laws of the universe, behind every one of these laws there is a wisdom. You, the human being, have to seek to break the veils and try and find the wisdom behind it. As I was discussing with one of the brothers recently, when you saw ruku' as an Arabian 1428 years ago, when you saw ruku' and you saw a person go into the position of ruku', you found that there were many people who would say, I can understand sujood and I could understand standing upright, but why ruku'? 1428 years ago, as an Arabian walking past the concept of salah, you would ask yourself, why do I have to bow? I can prostrate. But now you found that amongst the recent studies that they say, a person who stays in a position where the back is straightened in a bowing position for 15 minutes a day can be cured of certain types of cancer. 15 minutes a day you stay in a bowing position, you can be cured of certain types of cancer. Now 1400 years ago, were you to hear that, you would not believe it. Now you see studies have shown us that some of the tests which have been done show that they make the patient stand in a bowing position 15 minutes a day, and it's meant to help cancer and the curing of cancer. It goes to show you that there are laws in Sharia which have wisdom, and there are laws in the universe which have wisdom, but that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not subject to His own laws. Sometimes the human being puts Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as being subject to His laws. Sometimes, have you ever heard when people come and say to you, can God fit the universe into an egg without the egg becoming bigger or the universe getting smaller? Or can God create a stone that even He cannot lift? You see, there are terms of contradiction here in philosophy. Number one, the word can is applied to the limited being, whereas Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is unlimited. The word can is applied to the creation that is compelled. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can never be in compulsion. The word can is applied to something you can put in a certain place and defined by a certain time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot be put in places and defined by time. Therefore, when you come and say can is in our dictionary, because we are trying to work on areas in which our mind cannot necessarily comprehend. Whereas the Lord who created those areas knows more about them than you do. It's like a person wants to comprehend the Ferrari, but Maranello in Italy, they know their Ferrari. You can't come to them now and say to them, can you change this particular area of the seat or of the engine? And it's ironic we discussed this, anyone who follows Formula 1. Can you discuss you're changing a seat or an engine? They say, what do you mean can we? This is our car, if we want we go like this. Whereas us, who don't know much about the Ferrari, we work in the word of can. That's why, as I narrated to you last year, when sixth Imam was asked, can God fit the whole universe into an egg without the egg becoming bigger or the universe becoming smaller? Again, problem number one is you saying can. Of course He can. But problem number two is, how do you explain it? It's one thing saying Allah can do something, but it's another explaining it. And that's where Ahlul Bayt come in. Can God fit this universe, which we can't even comprehend, into an egg, which we can comprehend? So half the question we can comprehend, and the other half of the question we can't comprehend. Can God fit the universe into an egg without the egg becoming bigger or the universe getting smaller? Hisham ibn al-Hakam couldn't answer. He went to sixth Imam. Sixth Imam said, it's very easy. Ask the person. He said to the person who asked, the atheist, he said, how many senses do you have? He said, 5. He said, name them. He said, I can see and I can touch and I can taste and I can smell and I can hear. He said, which is the smallest sense you have? He said, my eyes. He said, what part of your eyes? He said, the lens. He said, what do you see in the lens? He said, I see trees and I see forests, I see humans, I see buildings. He said, if God can fit all those things into your lens, you think He can't fit the universe into an egg? How many of you here have been to Manhattan, New York? And you're walking and you see these high buildings. Your lens is this big, but it can make that building come inside. And they doubt whether the Lord can make a universe come into an egg. Didn't He show you that a high-rise building can enter your lens? Therefore, when we come to the concept of age, has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran shown us that the law of cause and effect, which we live by, I pick up this book, if I were to throw it on the ground, I am the cause and the effect is it falls. As the most simple example. Is He subject to those laws, or can He break them? Of course He can break them. We are subject to cause and effect. But if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to break a law of cause and effect, He can.